I need to say something I've been holding inside for too long. It's not easy for me, not because the words are hard, but because the truth often is I made a mistake, a real one. And I hurt someone I care about more than anything in this world. I know apologies are cheap if they're just words. I know saying, I'm sorry, doesn't erase the past, doesn't erase the pain. But I've realized that if I don't speak, if I don't own my actions, I'm choosing silence over love. And I don't want to live like that. I loved you, not in some fleeting, effortless way, but with the kind of love that keeps choosing, even when it's hard, even when fear or ego or laziness might try to take over. And yet I stumbled. I faltered. I let something get in the way of that choice, and for that, I am truly, deeply sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me immediately, or ever. But I want you to hear me. I want you to know that I see what I did. I understand it, and I am ready to do the work inside myself and with you, if you'll let me. Because love is not perfect. Love is patient. Love is humility. Love is the courage to face the truth about ourselves, even when it hurts. And this moment right now is about being honest, about owning my faults, about asking for a chance to make it right, not just for your sake, but because I cannot imagine my life without learning from this, without growing from this. Love at its deepest, most enduring form is not the flash of fireworks, the fleeting rush of infatuation, or the intoxication of a new connection. It is the steady, quiet current beneath every action, every word, every decision. Real love is patient, not because it is passive, but because it understands the weight of time, the weight of human imperfection, and the weight of the choices that shape our lives. Commitment in love is not about flawless execution or uninterrupted harmony. It is about recognizing that both joy and difficulty exist in every human relationship and choosing, again and again, to stay present, to stay attentive, to stay devoted even when the heart feels weary, even when the ego whispers that retreat is easier, safer, less painful. To love someone fully is to understand that they will hurt you unintentionally or otherwise, and that you will inevitably fail them too. It is to acknowledge that life itself, with its unpredictability and relentless testing, will challenge your bond in ways neither of you could have foreseen. But commitment, true commitment, does not falter in the face of imperfection. It grows stronger, rooted in patience, understanding, and the quiet but unshakable resolve to prioritize connection over convenience, loyalty over comfort, and truth over pretense. To commit is to say in the softest but most unwavering voice, I see you. I know you. I choose you, even with everything I cannot control and every mistake I might make, because your presence in my life is a sacred trust that I will honor with all the care I can muster. It is the small, often invisible gestures that matter, the daily acts of listening, the gentle consideration for another's feelings, the willingness to slow down and offer attention when the world demands speed, the courage to apologize when you are wrong, and the humility to accept forgiveness without defensiveness. Love as commitment demands patience not only with the other person but also with oneself, understanding that growth is low, mistakes are inevitable, and the path to becoming a better partner is ongoing, never complete, and often uncomfortable. It requires emotional courage, the kind that asks us to face our flaws, our fears, and our insecurities without hiding behind pride or anger, and to bring our full selves into the relationship, knowing that vulnerability is the bridge to intimacy, not a weakness to be feared. In love, silence can be as destructive as words. Indifference can erode trust faster than conflict. Commitment teaches us to speak when necessary, to listen when necessary, and to act with integrity, even when no one is watching, even when recognition is absent, even when acknowledgement is delayed. Real love does not demand perfection, but it does demand presence, consistency, and reliability. It is the patience to wait for someone to grow, the understanding to accept their past, and the willingness to embrace their evolving self without judgment. It is the quiet reassurance in a storm, the hand held through grief, the shared laughter in mundane moments, and the gentle guidance when decisions falter. Love as commitment is neither glamorous nor effortless. It is often work, quiet, unseen, and sometimes thankless work, but it is the most profound work one can undertake because it shapes the very fabric of two lives intertwined. When someone loves fully and commits deeply, they become a sanctuary for their partner, a safe harbor where fears can be admitted, vulnerabilities exposed, and authenticity honored. Commitment demands more than words. It requires a steady demonstration of loyalty, a constant weaving of trust, and a profound respect for the other person's heart. It is recognizing that relationships are living entities that require care, nourishment, not simply to survive, but to thrive. Real love acknowledges that hurt will occur, that disappointments are inevitable, and that misunderstandings are part of human interaction. Yet, commitment does not falter in these moments. Instead, it grows more deliberate, more compassionate, more willing to repair what was broken and rebuild what was strained. Love demands patience with the mundane, with the repetitive, with the quiet frustrations of daily life, understanding that these small moments accumulate into the legacy of a relationship. The committed heart sees the ordinary not as tedious but as sacred, recognizing that consistency over time is the true measure of devotion. Loyalty is not blind adherence, nor is it conditional upon convenience. It is a conscious choice to stand beside someone, to advocate for them, to honor them, and to protect the bond shared, even in times of trial. Emotional maturity in love is the recognition that the relationship is bigger than individual ego or pride, that humility often outweighs stubbornness, and that listening may be more powerful than speaking. It is about navigating conflict with grace, addressing mistakes with sincerity, and choosing reconciliation over resentment. To commit is to cultivate a heart that balances honesty with kindness, truth with compassion, and boundaries with generosity, understanding that love flourishes not through domination or control, but through respect and mutual care. Real love requires surrender, not to weakness, but to the reality that no person is perfect, no circumstance is ideal, and that resilience is forged in the acceptance of life's imperfections. It asks us to forgive without erasing lessons, to communicate without judgment, and to nurture intimacy through both physical presence and emotional availability. It is choosing to see the best in someone, even when they falter, while also holding space for accountability and growth. Commitment is about staying when it is easy and staying when it is difficult, about leaning in when the heart trembles, and about finding grace in the moments that test patience, empathy, and understanding. Love as commitment is less about grand declarations and more about everyday integrity, showing up for each other, prioritizing each other's well-being, and sustaining the trust that forms the foundation of shared life. It is about seeing the person fully, loving them fully, and choosing them fully, not for what they provide, not for how they make you feel, but for who they are, and for the shared journey that you are willing to travel together. In essence, love and commitment demand courage, the courage to be vulnerable, to admit when wrong, to forgive when hurt, to adapt when circumstances shift, and to persist when hope feels fragile. It is a choice made silently, consistently, and without guarantee, knowing that the ultimate reward is not perfection, but connection, not certainty, but trust, not fleeting pleasure, but a life intertwined with meaning, respect, and shared growth. Commitment asks us to embrace discomfort, to listen when it is easier to speak, to yield when it is tempting to insist, and to cherish when it is effortless to overlook. It requires that we recognize our partner's humanity, our own, and the shared humanity that binds us, and to navigate life together with humility, patience, and unwavering devotion. Real love is not measured by absence of conflict, but by presence of understanding, not by flawlessness, but by faithfulness, not by perfection, but by perseverance. The heart that truly commits sees love as a continuous act of choosing daily intentionally and without expectation of immediate return, and understands that this choice, though quiet and often invisible, transforms our ordinary lives into something sacred, resilient, and enduring. Love as commitment is the willingness to weather storms together, to celebrate victories together, and to confront challenges together, recognizing that every moment, ordinary or extraordinary, is an opportunity to deepen connection, cultivate empathy, and honor the bond that has been entrusted to you. It is a covenant of patience, a promise of presence, and a practice of generosity, humility, and unwavering respect. To commit is to say, without fanfare or dramatic flourish, I will be here, I will stay, I will try again, and I will keep choosing you every day, through every mistake, every fear, and every challenge, because our love deserves nothing less than the full measure of my attention, my care, and my heart. And in this, in the quiet constancy of presence, in the daily acts of choosing, forgiving, and persevering, love reveals its truest form, not fleeting, flashy, or superficial, but enduring, soulful, and profoundly transformative, guiding two people toward deeper understanding, unshakable trust, and the kind of intimacy that sustains a lifetime, even in the face of mistakes, misunderstandings, and the unrelenting march of time. Healing in love is not a sudden, dramatic event. It is a quiet, often painstaking process that asks us to confront our own pain, our own shortcomings, and the ways we have hurt and been hurt, without running, without blaming, without seeking excuses. True forgiveness begins not with the other person, but within ourselves. It begins with the willingness to see the human in both of us, to recognize that mistakes do not erase the love that exists, and that hurt, while real and valid, is also an opportunity to grow, to understand, and to deepen the connection we share. Forgiveness does not mean ignoring wrongdoing or pretending that pain did not occur. It means choosing to release the burden of resentment, to let go of the desire to punish, and to create space for restoration, trust, and empathy. It is the courageous act of opening your heart again when it feels fragile, of saying, I will see you, I will hear you, and I will not let this mistake define us, knowing full well that such openness is terrifying, that it requires humility and vulnerability, and that it will test every fiber of your patience and resilience. Healing is slow because love is real, because emotions are layered, because memories linger, and because trust, once fractured, cannot be rebuilt. Overnight must be earned, nurtured, and reaffirmed continuously. Choosing someone daily is the manifestation of forgiveness and healing. It is the act of recommitting to the person who has hurt you, to the relationship that matters, and to the shared life you are building together, understanding that each day will bring new challenges, new frustrations, and new opportunities to practice empathy, patience, and generosity of spirit. Love is not passive. It is not a feeling that comes and goes based on circumstance or convenience. It is a conscious decision to honor the bond you share, to prioritize understanding over judgment, and to actively participate in the ongoing restoration of trust. In choosing someone daily, you acknowledge their humanity and your own, you embrace imperfections, and you dedicate yourself to the work of maintaining intimacy, respect, and emotional safety. Healing requires honesty, admitting faults, facing uncomfortable truths, and communicating openly about needs, fears, and expectations. It also requires deep listening, the kind that goes beyond hearing words and reaches into the emotions, the intentions, and the unspoken struggles beneath them. Forgiveness is strengthened not by grand gestures, but by consistency, patience, and a willingness to hold space for the other person's growth while simultaneously tending to your own emotional well-being. It demands that you separate the action from the actor, that you see the mistake as a learning point rather than a condemnation, and that you recognize the shared responsibility in nurturing a healthy, lasting relationship. Choosing someone daily is more than a phrase, it is a practice of devotion expressed in countless small ways, in attentiveness to their moods, in consideration for their desires, in empathy when they struggle, in gentleness when words fail, and in resilience when circumstances threaten to pull you apart. It is in the morning conversations, the quiet dinners, the moments of silence shared comfortably, and the simple gestures of care that healing is reinforced and trust is rebuilt. Every act of choosing someone after a disagreement, after a lapse in judgment, after a hurtful word or unintended action is a reaffirmation of commitment, a conscious declaration that your bond is stronger than the temporary pain, stronger than ego, stronger than fear. Healing and forgiveness are not linear. They ebb and flow. They test your patience. They challenge your assumptions, and they reveal the depth of your emotional maturity. And yet, in the repetition of choosing, in the daily recommitment, love transforms from a fragile feeling into a resilient force, capable of enduring setbacks, capable of weathering storms, capable of growing richer and more meaningful over time. This process teaches us that mistakes, while painful, do not have to be permanent markers of failure. Instead, they can become catalysts for growth, understanding, and greater intimacy, provided we approach them with humility, honesty, and the willingness to do the work that true love demands. Forgiveness is not passive, it is active. It is the conscious decision to believe in the goodness of someone, to recognize their capacity to change, and to engage in the shared effort of rebuilding what was broken. Healing requires time, patience, and reflection, and it flourishes in an environment of trust, mutual respect, and emotional safety. Choosing someone daily is both the reward and the labor of love. It affirms that, despite imperfections, despite past mistakes, despite fear or doubt, you are committed to the journey together, and that you see the relationship as a living entity deserving of attention, care, and intentional nurturing. In this act, we learn the profound truth that love is not merely a feeling to be experienced, but a practice to be enacted, that forgiveness is not a gift to be demanded, but a responsibility to be earned and offered generously, that healing is not a destination, but a path walked together with patience, courage, and unwavering commitment. Love, when lived in this way, becomes transformative. It teaches us to slow down, to reflect, to nurture, and to choose connection over conflict, understanding over judgment, and presence over avoidance. And in the repetition of daily choice, in the conscious engagement with the other's heart, we discover the quiet, profound, and unshakable power of love, the power to mend, to restore, to forgive, to grow, and ultimately to endure. Loyalty in love is not merely a promise or a word spoken in the glow of happiness. It is a practice, a quiet, consistent devotion that persists even when life becomes inconvenient, when temptations arise, when misunderstandings occur, and when fear or doubt tugs at the heart. It is the recognition that a relationship is a sacred trust, not an obligation, and that honoring that trust requires patience, selflessness, and courage. Loyalty is not blind compliance or unquestioning obedience. It is the conscious choice to remain steadfast, to prioritize the well-being of your partner, and the integrity of your shared bond, even when it is uncomfortable or challenging, even when it asks you to rise above your ego, your pride, and your impulses. Respect is the foundation of this loyalty. It is the recognition of your partner as a whole, autonomous human being with dreams, fears, flaws, and strengths, deserving of empathy, consideration, and dignity in every interaction. Respect manifests not only in how you speak and act toward them, but also in how you honor their boundaries, listen without judgment, and hold space for their individuality while cultivating connection. Emotional maturity in love is the ability to navigate life together with awareness, patience, and grace. It is the capacity to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, to communicate openly without aggression or defensiveness, and to accept responsibility for one's actions without shifting blame or deflecting accountability. It is understanding that mistakes are inevitable, that hurt is unavoidable, and that the measure of a relationship is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to engage in disagreement without diminishing the other's worth, to forgive without forgetting, and to grow through adversity rather than crumble under it. Emotional maturity is also the courage to be vulnerable, to admit fear, doubt, or uncertainty, and to share these feelings honestly with your partner, recognizing that true intimacy is born from the willingness to reveal the self fully while holding space for the other to do the same. Loyalty, respect, and emotional maturity are inseparable. They reinforce one another in a delicate balance that sustains long-term love. Loyalty without respect becomes control. Respect without loyalty becomes distance. Emotional maturity without either becomes detachment. Together, they form a triad that transforms relationships from transient connections into enduring partnerships, capable of weathering setbacks, misunderstandings, and the passage of time. To embody these qualities is to accept that love is both a privilege and a responsibility, a privilege to witness and participate in another human's life, and a responsibility to act with integrity, compassion, and attentiveness every day. It means showing up not only in the moments of ease, laughter, and comfort, but also in the moments of doubt, tension, and fatigue, recognizing that these are the moments that define the depth and authenticity of love. Loyalty is revealed in the small, often unnoticed decisions, choosing honesty over convenience, choosing presence over distraction, choosing forgiveness over resentment, choosing connection over self-interest. Respect is expressed in the patience to listen without interruption, the humility to acknowledge when you are wrong, and the gentleness to approach differences with curiosity rather than judgment. Emotional maturity is demonstrated in the ability to remain calm under pressure, to consider the impact of your words and actions, and to prioritize the emotional safety and dignity of both partners above the need to win, to be right, or to assert control. Together, these qualities create a relational ecosystem in which love can thrive, not because it is effortless, but because it is consciously cultivated, nurtured, and defended against the erosion of neglect, ego, and misunderstanding. They demand that we examine ourselves continually, confront our impulses, and choose integrity even when no one is watching, knowing that the unseen effort of loyalty, respect, and maturity builds a foundation strong enough to withstand the inevitable storms of life. They teach us that love is not passive, not dependent solely on feelings or circumstance, but an active, deliberate commitment to honor, protect, and nurture the bond we share, recognizing that every interaction, every choice, and every gesture contributes to the health, depth, and longevity of the relationship. Loyalty, respect, and emotional maturity are the quiet victories of love, the invisible scaffolding that supports a shared life, the steady pulse beneath the highs and lows, the assurance that in choosing each other with thoughtfulness, integrity, and empathy, two people can build a life that is not only enduring but profoundly meaningful. And in embodying these principles, we discover that true love is not measured by perfection or absence of conflict, but by the presence of trust, the practice of compassion, the willingness to grow together, and the unwavering decision to face life's challenges hand in hand, heart with heart, choosing each other every day with awareness, care, and an unshakable commitment to the sacredness of what we share.